Welcome to the Man of the Law podcast.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
No problem. I'm just going to give you a brief introduction here. If you guys don't know Kenny Kim, but you probably do if you're watching this. If not, Kenny Kim is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, instructor, content creator, and founder of the Kenny Kim BJJ Academy in Marietta, Georgia. Um, with over 2 decades of experience in martial arts, Taekwondo, and Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, he has become a prominent figure in the BJJ community. I know you got a lot of projects going and a lot of things going, so welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Let's get it going.
Yeah. So how'd you get the start in BJJ? I know you were doing, martial arts for a long time. So
Yeah,
what was the kind of trigger to get you to jiu-jitsu?
it was my roommate at the time. I had a roommate that was training before me, and he would always come hang his stinky gi up in our dining room table chair, and he would, periodically ask me, "Hey, why don't you come with me?" I said, "Nah, I don't want to do that stuff. I don't want to do that stuff." Long story short, I went with him one day, and that was the beginning of the
Yeah,
end.
that's how it all started, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then, as you got going, what, made you decide to be like, inspired you to be like, I want to start creating jiu-jitsu content.
Well, this was about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I really wasn't like, oh, I'm going to create jiu-jitsu content. The way it started, I don't know if you are familiar with Matt Made. Matt Made is our brand.
Yeah,
Okay.
Matt Made is, yeah, one of my favorite shows. Listen to your podcast. And
Yeah.
that really kind of, inspired me too as I watch, like as a small person, like I'm trying to inspire people to train jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
My
Hmm.
focus is mainly on police officers, but I try and get it to everybody.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
but yeah, I love your show, Matt Made, and that's how I found you by starting to watch Matt Made. Yes.
Yeah. So Matt Made, it originated, it's my story. I was basically made on the mats. People say, oh, I'm self-made or I'm this made or I'm that made. I'm Matt Made. So that's basically where Matt Made came from. And I think that right before the pandemic, I had a mentor. He was like, man, why don't you write a book? I said, who am I to write a book? Who's going to read my book? He said, it doesn't matter who reads your book. He said, if you can touch one person, and that was when it hit me, I said, okay, that's right. Everybody, you have to start somewhere.
Right.
Not it doesn't matter. The biggest names in the world had to start as a nobody,
Yeah.
right? And so I started. I mean, I'm not a very I always say I'm not a very smart person, and I said I don't know how to write a book. I said, you know what, YouTube it, and start just writing a couple pages a day. Just write your thoughts down, and then my mentor was, I can help you out. But anyhow, so I started to write the book a little bit while I was doing that. I also had an idea. I said, man, what if I can take my story or share other people's story and put it on film? And so that's where Matt Made started. So long story short, the book was released, had a very good response. People were all about it, jazzed about it, started getting some traction. And I had a film crew set, some local guys that I knew, and we were about to film our first episode, and then the pandemic happened, and then boom, everything
Mhm.
shut down. And so that kind of went out the window, at least for the time being. I wasn't thinking about it. I mean, I was trying to figure out how I was going to pay the bills for the gym. We were
Yeah.
closed for, 3 months. I mean, I didn't know if people were going to come back. I didn't know. None of us knew what was going to happen, right?
Right.
So that was happening. And once everything got back, it was kind of like a gift in disguise, because if I would have done it with the guys that I had planned to do it with, I think it would have went well, but it would have been one and done. I think it would have been like, okay, yeah, we did it. It was cool. Somehow I got hooked up with my current partner, Matt Made partner, and we decided let's give, he liked the idea,
Mhm.
and we said let's give it a try. And so we got a crew together, and what we didn't know was the cost behind making these.
Right. Putting it together. Right. Yeah.
And we just thought, I just thought, okay, you know what? I can spare a couple $1,000. That's still a lot of money for an audience that we didn't have, and
Yeah.
there was no monetization goals. at the time, it wasn't about, I didn't think about, oh, I'm going to monetize this so I can, make some money back or, make some money. It was just out of pure passion that I wanted to do this. So, anyways, we interviewed a few different filmmakers, and the first group that we met with, we had lunch and we were talking about our concepts, and they were pretty cool about it. And then they sent us a an estimate for one episode. I think it was close to $100,000.
Whoa. You're like, I'm trying to keep the doors open here and bring students in, not pay out
Yeah,
100,000.
yeah,
Yeah.
hundred
Right.
thousand dollars.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, let's switch directions a little bit. I mean,
Right.
if that's the way it's gonna be, we can't really continue doing this
Yeah.
or start to do this because it's way out of the budget.
Hmm.
And so we looked further and found a group that we really liked, and my partner already had this relationship with them. So we decided, okay, let's go with them. But anyways, this first episode actually costed us close to $60,000. I mean, it still was a lot of money.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It wasn't like we didn't have any capital. It was just my partner and I, we just said, okay, let's put in. And so we filmed the first episode in Nashville, at my buddy's place. The story was great. The cinematograph, I mean, like everything that we've done was top notch. We wanted to make it, network ready. So if a
Yeah.
network wanted to pick it up, and so that's the way we went. We did it. Great, great time. I mean, I had my buddy Dean Thomas, UFC fighter, announcer. He was my co-host at the time. We were proud. I mean, this was great, man. This is gonna be amazing. And so content creation came then. We had a buddy who actually is a big time content. He has an agency. If you see like Matt Arroyo, Malachi Freeman, all these guys, they started after me.
Mm.
And the person who started with me, I was like his guinea pig.
Okay.
And so we basically hired him and said, well, we want to take this Matt Made and put it out to the audience. So we had a separate channel for Matt Made. And what we did was we basically cross-referenced Matt Made and Kenny Kim. So Kenny Kim is Matt Made is Kenny Kim,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So all the content started going on to Matt Made, all the shorts from our episodes. While we were doing that, we said, well, let's go ahead and start filming some techniques. Like, this is what you're good at. This is your niche. When you build an audience here, that audience is going to automatically follow the Matt Made.
Yeah, which is true because yeah, like people follow your regular
Right.
Instagram and they click over. Sure.
Exactly. Or
Yeah.
vice versa, right?
Right.
And so
Yeah.
we created,
It doesn't need to mix together, right? Yeah.
right. And we started creating content. And I think there was maybe a handful of people maybe creating jiu-jitsu content, but not the way I was doing it. I
Yeah.
actually made a post about this, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm bragging or anything, but the content world has gone like boom, it blew up. I mean, everybody's doing it, which is
Hmm.
great. Everybody has different flavors and everybody can offer something different, and you may connect with this person a little bit better than you will with this person. However, what I've done was the first ones to do that kind of style of like, hey, I have 3 techniques that I want to show you guys
Yes. Yeah.
white belt, or I'm going
Yeah.
to show you this. And the
And
crazy thing,
everyone's doing that now, but you were kind of setting the standard at the time. Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was the first person to do it in that format and style. And I remember a couple of videos in, some videos are getting 10,000, 20,000, 50, 100, and then it was a million, 2 million. It was crazy. I thought, oh my God, this is crazy.
Yeah. And it's working. Yeah.
And then I thought Instagram was broken actually. So like every hour I would refresh and it would be like another 20,000 followers.
That's
And I'm
crazy.
like, this thing has to be broken. I mean,
Yeah.
it
Like
was,
how could that be? Right. And
yeah, you refresh it and it goes from like, 20,000 to next thing you know, you're at 60. I'm like, there's no freaking way.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's doing this over and over, and technique videos are just blowing up. But with that, what I wasn't prepared was internet is a harsh place,
It is.
especially when you start collecting these new fans or followers. They may have followed you or liked one of your videos, but they may not agree with everything that you do. There's some techniques you may have this. couch potato, white belt that's in his 60s or, 12 years old, they may come on and talk all this shit about, oh, that's not how you're supposed to do this, and that.
Hmm.
He wasn't used to that. In the beginning, I was like, oh, wow, and I try to comment on everything.
Yeah.
Eventually you learn,
It's not even worth commenting. No.
no, no. I mean, internet's a harsh place, and no
Yeah.
matter how well you do, how good you are, I mean, people talk shit about Audrey Gracie, Gordon Ryan. It doesn't matter who you
Right.
are, it's always going to be that way.
Yeah. You
So
could be the best in the
that's how
world and they're still good.
yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So that's how the content creation kind of started. And as I started to build a fan base, we started pushing the Matt Made a little bit more. So we did another episode. So right now we have 7 episodes on free on YouTube, and they all, network ready, 4K filmed.
Yeah.
It's good to go. And then within that, we have the short stories that we're posting,
Yeah.
like we couldn't get the full episode, so we have people telling 60 to 90 seconds of like how jiu-jitsu has changed. And those stories are actually getting more traction. And
Hmm.
so we started to share that even more so, and people were sharing that with their friends and families and whatnot. And that got us thinking to our website. If you go to mattmade.com, we have the largest jiu-jitsu directory. We have 7,000 schools right now.
Yeah.
And so you watch a story and you go to Matt Made, I want to start training, you go to mattmade.com.
Matt made Gym Finder, right? You have your Gym Finder. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. I saw
Exactly.
that because Brazil
So
021 is on there too. So in
there's a
Chicago,
good, good,
it
good.
is.
It's
Yes.
still being refined right
Yeah.
now.
So we made your list.
Good. We got we're now we have AI working to make sure everything is in order, the information is correct.
Yeah. You just type in the zip code of where you're at
Yeah,
and
actually,
the schools pop up. Yeah.
you
Or
can
yeah.
type it in, or it's geolocation, meaning if you're wherever you are, you open your app or you open it up, it automatically goes to that city,
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so, it's free.
Yeah.
Eventually, we're going to have a paid option. We're going to have a uh, um, uh, check mark next to the one's verified option where we verified that you have these whatever classes. And
Hmm.
so, but it's free to the public. So what we're trying to do is connect the next generation of students to the schools,
Yeah.
school brands and brands to, so it's not just something that I'm doing for myself. Is I'm trying to bring the community together.
Yeah.
So
It's not like you're saying, oh, you got to come train with me in Georgia. It's
no, I
like,
never say that. Oh, I'm always like,
yeah.
find somebody.
Exactly. And I'm like that too, especially with police. I'm like, I don't care if you're in Texas,
Yeah.
message me. I know people in Texas you can
Yeah.
go train with. I know people in Colorado. Like, as long as you walk in that gym door, start training jujitsu, and it's at a good
Are
school,
you a
then
police officer?
yes, Chicago police officer. Yeah.
So, I live in Marietta, which is the first city to incorporate
Yes.
the
Jujitsu.
judicial system,
Yes.
where we
Yeah.
have actually the major, Lieutenant Major, is one of my students from Marietta,
Yes.
and we actually have the whatchamacallit, uh, peace officers standard, uh,
Post.
yeah, post.
Yeah, they call it post. Yes. Yeah.
Post actually has a jiu-jitsu program for police officers so they can start teaching. So
Oh,
in
great.
Georgia, we have that.
Yeah.
And I'm also a certified post defensive tactics instructor, lecturer, BJJ. I have like 4 different certification from post. Because I've been working with the police department and the special forces here for a long time too. So
That's
I'm all
awesome.
behind the blue.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's kind of my main goal. I mean, I want to get police officers in, but I also, I love jujitsu. I love talking to people in the jujitsu industry, MMA community. So I kind of branch out and do a little bit of both because it's my interest. But my passion is to get, police officers that know zero into fundamental jujitsu. And then I trained effective fitness combatives with Jay Wadsworth. I don't know if you know that system, but
Mhm.
I'm a level 1 instructor through them, so certified through them. So I also teach like a separate law enforcement course. But I always tell people just, if you could just at the minimum take fundamental jujitsu. And I know
You
Marietta,
have to.
yeah. Like
I
how do
mean,
you
it's
not?
like,
Right.
like that's one of your job requirements
Yeah.
to hustle people down. And, I don't even know how they have a standard where you can get a job without knowing how to do that.
Yeah.
You got to take less of the shooting, more of the hand-to-hand grappling, because that's
Yes.
what you're going to get into.
in the majority, like I think it's the FBI data is like 75% of, injuries to officers or suspects, happen in it's a grappling match, it's a wrestling match.
Yeah,
It's exactly what you do in jiu-jitsu. It's not because of a
yeah,
knife or a gun. I mean, those things
yeah,
happen, but the majority of
sure.
things is, not being able to, grapple another human being or control another human being. And that's
Yeah,
exactly what
because they don't
jiu-jitsu
want to be
teaches you.
detained, and when they don't want to be
Right.
detained, they're gonna do all they can to get away from you, and you need to be
Yeah.
able to hold them down. I mean, it's you know
Yeah.
common sense. You got
Yeah.
to learn it.
I, you
That's
know,
it's the prerequisite for a
yeah.
job.
And when I first got on the police department, I started in corrections. Now I'm a Chicago police officer, but that was the first thing I said to myself. It was like, I need to learn how to like, fight and control people. Like I'm going to be
Es-
fighting and, people on the street. It's just, it's just part of the job
Especially
description, man.
corrections. You guys don't even
Yeah.
have weapons.
No, nothing, nothing.
I
You got a
remember
set of
I have
keys.
a student. I had a student. He was like, "What am I gonna do? Throw my a walkie-talkie at him?" Like,
Right. Yeah. So
you
yeah.
need to know.
So for like, people like us, we see it right away. And like for other police officers, I'm like, where's the disconnect? What's the problem?
Yeah,
Like, why aren't you getting it? And Marietta was like one of the first ones to come out with data. And I've actually got the data
yeah,
because they implemented it because, one of their chiefs was involved in
yeah,
jiu-jitsu. And I think that's happening a lot now. A lot of
yeah.
police agencies around the country are
Mhm.
guys are getting promoted into spots where they can make
Sure.
decisions on training, and they're jiu-jitsu people, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. So they're bringing jiu-jitsu into these police departments. So when they did it in Marietta, 48% reduction in injuries to officers using force, 53% reduction in injuries to the person being arrested
Yeah.
when force was required, and 23% reduction in the use of taser. And I have to say that from training a long time, I usually don't go for a tool. I like to go hands-on because, my taser, my baton, these other tools are
Yeah.
not going to control another human being and put handcuffs on. And I still think that's, where the
And
jiu-jitsu and
you know
grappling
the
comes in.
what I see is it's the lack of confidence in them. That's why they reach
Yes.
for the baton. That's why
Yes.
they reach for the taser. That's
Yeah.
why they, unfortunately, these officer, killings. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, this, yeah. I mean, obviously, the officer a lot of times, come out guilty because that's what happened. But I see it as yes, they're guilty, but they're guilty because they're literally scared for their life because
Yes.
they never been pushed, they never even been grabbed. Whereas a trained person, if you grab me, I'm gonna say, okay, thank you.
Right. Exactly. Right.
I can grapple you, I can take you down, I can control you.
Yeah.
Whereas an officer that's not trained, the first thing he's gonna go back to is like, oh,
Exactly. Right.
I'm scared for my life,
Yeah.
right? So I think it comes down to the lack of confidence they have in their training. So
Absolutely.
again, we got to bring that training back up in order for that to go down, you
Yeah.
know? And but a lot of officers refuse to train.
Yeah. And I don't get it. There's good jujitsu everywhere you can, in Chicago and Georgia, and it's all
I mean,
over the
look here,
country now.
they
Yeah.
offer it for free. It's
Yes.
free.
Right.
Your department pays for it. And
Yeah.
I mean, I heard stories, guys that come in and just write their name and then dip out.
Yeah. That's like, why even do that? Yeah. If you have it for
You know
free,
what I
that's
mean?
even better. So, and even in most places, like, they give huge law enforcement discounts. The gis are half
Yeah.
off. So there's all kinds of benefits. And, most jujitsu academies are very good with the police. So but I think it's, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to put it out there and change the culture a little bit and kind of lead by example. And that kind of
Yeah.
brings me back to Matt Made because you have law enforcement officers on Matt Made. People talk about injuries and
Yeah.
stuff. And I only watched part of it. I didn't finish the whole episode yet. But you had Jiu-Jitsu Grandma on Matt Made.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, people are talking about injuries. There's a 73-year-old grandma on here and she rolls all day, every day. And we have kids on the mat too. So it's
Yeah,
like,
I've got
that's
a
really not an excuse.
I was just actually editing. I'm not editing. I was just watching. I just did an episode. It's not a full episode. It's like a podcast. So I've been doing a lot more like podcast slash video docu kind of deal. Not like the full episodes, but so anyways, I
Yeah.
was in Florida. I did an episode with a guy named Mark Ford. He's a very successful entrepreneur. One of his famous books are called Ready, Aim, Fire. He's made millions of people millionaires through the book. And
Hmm.
I mean, this guy is a guru at business. He's one of the best out there. Anyways, he's 75, fourth degree black belt or third degree black belt. And I had a rolling session with him, and I sat down and had podcast with him too. And again, it goes back to him training. It's like how you train, but he trains 4 days out of the week.
Yeah.
75 years old.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. And I'm, 49, I'm coming up on 50, and I think I'm in much better shape, since I
Sure.
started jujitsu. I started at 35, which I thought was a little bit older,
Hmm.
but jujitsu keeps me young, it keeps me in shape, and I think I'd be in much worse shape if I wasn't training jujitsu. Do I have to be careful and watch myself a little bit? Sure,
Depending on how
Yeah,
you train, you
right.
can't train the 25-year-olds, and
No,
as long as you're smart about your training.
yeah, yeah, and you're going to avoid the injuries and do that stuff. So I think. But yeah, I think Matt Made is, fantastic, and it's a, great place to, kind of check in. Like I think people that have those kind of different kind of vibes, they don't know exactly what jujitsu is, and then they go to a place like Matt Made and see like,
Well,
hey, average people are doing it. Average people are getting
that's
these
that's the point.
fantastic benefits from this. And I've seen
Hmm.
average people do fantastic things in jujitsu that, you wouldn't
Oh
believe.
yeah.
And
Hmm.
it happens all over the country, and it's great to hear these stories. That's great. So let's talk a little bit about your I know you're on Instagram and TikTok, but you also have Roll with Kenny. Could you talk a little bit
Yep.
about that, your online courses?
Yeah, it's my online training course. So basically, instead of like filming separately for these courses, it's an online program. You pay a monthly fee, and it's $10 a month. I mean, I made it cheap as I can, so my not only my students, but anybody in the world can have access to it. And there's hundreds of, I mean, I think we probably got, I don't know, over 500 techniques that are on there,
Yeah.
and we upload every week probably four, five, six techniques a week. So I have an in-house person that whenever I'm teaching my classes, different classes, no-gi classes, fundamental classes, advanced classes, he's there, he's filming it. What he does is once he films it, he edits it, wraps it up, titles it, and basically puts it up. So you'll see the newest techniques up top, and then it's subcategorized too by position, mount, back mount, guard, whatever, and then from guard, spider
Sure.
guard, from close guard, up, top, bottom. So you'll be able to go in there and see all the techniques. So again, it's not like it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. It's
Right.
$10. It's $9.99 a month. So you want to give it a try. It's rollwithkenny.com. You go on there, and if you like some of the techniques that you see, man, I mean, I have everything that I teach is on there. So
Okay, great. Yeah, and most of it's fundamentals, right? Or a little bit of everything.
fundamentals is divided. So we have fundamentals, we have advanced, and then we have
Okay.
the gi, no gi. We have some sparring sessions. It's all divided. So it's basically for everybody.
Nice. Nice. And with your platforms, I know you're on all kinds of different platforms. Do you keep most of your stuff pretty much the same, or do you try and tailor things differently for the different platforms you're putting them on?
So it's pretty much the same, except yeah, it's pretty much the same. Like everything's gone to shorts. On YouTube, we used to do some full-length videos. I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
It's all shorts. And I've kind of gone away in the last month or so. I've kind of gone away with doing techniques. I actually made a post about it. I said, well, I was one of the first ones to create these kind of contents. Obviously, there's a lot of people out there and a lot of good, and I just don't have the heart to do that anymore. I don't want to look at a camera and, you
Yeah.
know, show these techniques. Like I'm already doing it. I don't want to do it again
Right.
for an audience. For what? Because I'm not trying to sell anything. A lot of people have like courses they sell.
Yeah.
They're selling something off of it. Again, I'm just here to inspire people.
Yeah.
Along the ride, if you're a fan of mine, you like my stuff, then you can get some stuff. Like right now, I'm writing a new book, How to Run a Successful Martial Arts Business. I don't know if that's going to be the title, but we're about halfway done right now. I've got a new drink coming out called drinktigersbud.com. It's an immune ready drink. It's basically a recovery drink with beta glucan, pre and probiotics, all the vitamins you need. So it's good for kids. It's good for whoever. Actually, that's the shirt right there.
Oh yeah, perfect. There you go. Yes.
So this is launching here in the next couple of weeks, actually. Drinktigers.com is actually live. So I have a few projects that I'm working on, but it's usually I'm not like really out there trying to sell something. So that's my platforms. I'm just using it to
Yeah.
inspire more than anything else right now.
Yeah, that's kind of how I am too. Like I could, do technique videos, but I'm like, that's not really my thing, and it's a whole different process, and then you got to kind of sell that content and stuff.
Mhm.
Because my main goal is like, I don't want you just watching my stuff. I want you to come in and take my class. That's what I
Yeah.
want you to do. I don't want you to like try this stuff at home. I want you to
Mhm.
come. I want you to come in and take my class, and
Yeah.
especially if you're a law enforcement officer, I want you to come in and actually do it for real. On
Yeah.
the mats, and I think that makes a big difference. Yeah.
Oh,
So
it really does. It really does. And again, it's and what you really want out of the content creation. Some people just to do it to do it. Some people want to do it because they can get some exposure and be famous. Some people want to
yeah,
do it to make some money, and all for valid reasons.
yeah.
So whatever reasons may be.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong making money off your stuff
No, no,
and selling
no,
it to
no.
BJJ places, and because I mean
Hey,
it
there's plenty of
it's
people
your
that
event.
want to, pay for your service,
Yeah.
and if you can monetize that, great, go
Yeah.
for it, please.
Yeah. And I have a full-time job. I'm a police officer, so I'm in like, I have no need to really monetize this or do anything with that. I do this kind of for fun and to talk to people and to branch out in the jiu-jitsu
Yeah,
community. So I'm having a blast. And if it turns
good.
into something else, then it turns into something else. But for now I'm just having fun and on my day off I get to talk to Kenny Kim in Georgia and that
Yeah,
we
man.
we probably would have never connected otherwise. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm having a blast with it. So
Good, man.
um
Good, good.
what do you have like one piece? I know you talked about that early mat made stuff. Did you have one piece of content that was just like a blockbuster and you were like, I can't believe this is like the biggest piece of viral content I created?
So there's one piece in both of on my personal page and then on the Matt Made page.
Hmm.
So on the Matt Made page, this was random. We usually have a camera crew that films everything, but I was at one of Atlanta Opens and I look over and I see this guy. He's walking on the mat with a cane, black belt with a cane, blind with a cane, just and I'm just watching. I'm like, how does the guy even compete?
Hmm.
And what they do is the ref doesn't separate them. The ref basically kind of pre-grips them, like or at
Mm.
least a handshake, like because I mean you don't start with the grip. The guy's gonna probably double leg you and slam you on your
Yeah,
back.
you have no idea where he is, right? Yeah.
Right. And which I thought was cool. But man, this guy was pretty high level. Even though he lost, he was fighting like Master One, maybe even adults at the time.
Wow.
And he was tough and he would be fighting Jean Miol all the time. That was like kind of his division. And he got done, and I think he was with his mother and he had his service dog, he had his cane. I was like, I gotta go talk to this guy. So I
Right.
just grabbed him. I said, hey man, look, can I just interview you for a few seconds? And he was like, no problem, man. I took him outside and it was loud. I didn't think the video was gonna do anything because it was just, but when I started to get the story, he was talking about how he's from a South American country, I forgot where, but his name is Carlos, and they call him the Blind Warrior. You can look him up. And he actually teaches down in Florida.
Oh wow.
He starts to tell his story of how he was bullied and he couldn't do anything else, and mentally, physically, and jujitsu. And that story, I was like, wow, I was getting goosebumps while I was filming.
Yeah.
And so anyways, I sent it off to our guys. They edited it up, and then we posted it. And I kid you not, this thing, I think right now it's at like 2.8 million views just
Mm.
on Instagram. And then YouTube is something else. And then people remixed it, shared it, and then got millions and millions of views. And so that was one of the bigger contents that we had. And then another lady that was talking about there was robbers that came into her home and killed her son.
Mm.
It's actually a story, you can see it. Killed her son, 14-year-old son or something like that.
Wow.
And she was saying in jiu-jitsu help her cope with that loss.
Yeah.
And so that one blew up.
Yeah.
And like on my personal page, I remember one of the first things that I taught because jiu-jitsu was still smaller and niche. So I taught some, headlock defenses. This is what you do. 3 ways to defend a headlock when somebody grabs you in a headlock. And obviously, everybody came out of the woodworks, like the old school, jujitsu guys were, yeah, this is the fundamental stuff you should know. And then you got
Right.
the guys that, don't know what they're talking about. Oh, that would never work in the street, which actually started the more people engaged,
Yeah, it just keeps rolling. Yeah.
yeah, and that got a few million views because
Yeah.
people just like everybody was jumping in there to talk about how either they liked it or they hated it. It would never work. You couldn't do that to me or da 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 da. And so that was one of the bigger pieces that blew up to. And again, every few minutes, that thing had like another 20,000 views, 50,000 views.
Yeah, you're like, is this broken? What's going on?
Right. That's what I
Right.
thought. It was just like it was on a speed dial. It was just
Yeah.
spinning. And so yeah, that was few of the and then there's some videos that got a few 100,000 views here and there.
Hmm.
Never really did it for the views, but it was good because once you started to get the views, you started to connect with more people.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And I think that's really what your content does. I mean, you watch like something like Craig Jones with B Team, and you're like, oh, that stuff's amazing. Like, it's so cool. But you're like, well, I'm not going to walk in there and do that,
Right.
because it's just super high level stuff. But with
Yeah.
your stuff, I think you just connect with average people on a human level too,
Yeah.
and that really makes a difference. And I think just being genuine on who you are and your content, I think that's really why people, just respond to it so well. It doesn't have to be super crisp. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's genuine. And I think that really
Yeah.
makes a difference. Yeah.
And before when we were making content, it was all about, man, it has to be a perfect content. Like I want to make sure, oh man, I want to make sure my hair is nice. I
Right.
want to make sure that, I'm saying everything correctly. I want to make sure, it's like, but
It
that's
doesn't
not
have to
genuine.
be no.
Like, right, so now it's
Yeah.
just like, most of the stuff that I put out is like what I think on a daily basis or what other people may be thinking or what I
Yeah.
see. And I basically just address that.
Yeah.
And some videos may do well, some videos maybe not, but I don't care. I mean,
Right.
I'm just, I'm out there, I'm putting out what I think is good and what I feel. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you got to do what you feel is right for you, not for somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about doing the technique videos is like, I got to a point and I told my video guys, I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I was like, I don't want to act in front of this. I don't
Yeah.
want to do, and that's one of the reasons I kind of stopped. If I would have kept going, like I know some of the guys are like 600,000 followers. I'll
Yeah.
probably be at a million of followers because again, I was the first one to do it, so I had a lot of traction behind it.
Yeah.
But I got to a point where I just pulled the plug. I said, I just don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. It just
That's not
doesn't
fun
feel
for me
right.
anymore.
Yeah.
It was stressful, like because we would film like 1 month worth of techniques. So basically, like they would post one a day or two a day. So that's 30, 40 techniques. And after 5, 6 months, it's like, man, it's almost the same thing over and over. You
Right.
know what I mean? I don't even have any techniques. It's
Yeah.
just different versions of me teaching this stuff. And
Hmm.
again, when things become not enjoyable,
Yeah.
drop it. You can't drag it on because
Yeah.
it's not genuine. You can tell.
Yeah.
And so I kind of
And
that's when I stopped and I'm kind of doing what I'm doing now. I
yeah.
lost a lot of followers from it, but it's okay.
Yeah, but you've gained a lot of people that really enjoy your stuff too. And, that's why I
Yeah.
started doing this too, because most people in the jujitsu community love talking about jujitsu. So it's like I can go up to anybody in my gym with a microphone and be like, hey, can you tell me, what'd you like about the rolls today? How'd you like class? And like people will talk about it. It's because you could always and everybody has some kind of story, behind their jujitsu
Oh,
stuff.
everybody does.
Yeah.
Everybody does. You got to be
Yeah.
a little crazy to do jujitsu anyways.
Yeah. True. And with your content, like I saw your video this morning, you're probably, in your side bedroom, you got your shirt off, but what you're talking about is something that applies. You were talking about, just getting 1% better every day, and that's really how it is. I'm almost 50 years old. I'm not going to be any kind of superstar. I just got my black belt 6 months ago. I'm very proud of that. But it's like,
Congratulations.
yeah, and it didn't happen overnight, 10, 11, 12
Well,
years. And really consistency is the key. I always tell my students, it's like, did you get a little better today than you were yesterday? That's all that
mhm.
matters, little steps, chipping away at it. And that's
And
really,
I
how you
think
get better.
I've gained a lot of fans and followers that are a little bit older. Again, I'm a couple years away from being 52, so
Yeah.
um, I think a lot more people my age or 35 and over are connecting with me too because some of the stuff that I put out there, it's the truth about, hey, obviously jujitsu is good for you, but in a couple of contents videos ago, I said something about you got to know how to balance stuff. Like
You do.
you love jujitsu, but you can't be there 7 days a week and not take care of your family or your kids or
Right.
your business, right?
Hmm.
Obviously, we want you to be consistent, but there's things that need to get done before you show up to jujitsu. Jujitsu isn't everything. It's part of your life, but it can't be. I mean, for me, it's almost everything, but I
Yeah.
still make time to venture away from it so I can spend the time with the stuff, the families, and everything else that I need to do.
Hmm.
Um, because you can't get once you're as we get older, once you're so involved in it and you're on the mat like that, your body can't sustain. And I go to the gym, I work out, you know what I mean? So physically, you can say, I mean, we can say, oh, there's a 75-year-old guy doing it. Yes, I know, but the mileage that he has and the mileage that I have are completely different. You know, I
Hmm.
have a lot of, I mean, you got a 1977 model over here that's been, you know,
Yeah.
pedal to the metal for many, many years. It's been in a lot of wrecks, and now it's like an antique. You know what I mean? It
Right.
looks good. We want to make sure we can take it for a test drive, but we're not going down the Autobahn and trying to test to see how fast we can take it.
Yeah.
It's same thing with our bodies, man. There's um, a time and a place for everything. And at a certain point, just once you realize that, like young guy has your arm or your foot and you don't feel like tapping, you better tap because you can
Yeah.
come back and train tomorrow. As you get older, you hurt yourself, you're not coming back for months.
Right. You got to live to fight another day. That's the
Yeah,
key. You
yeah.
got to live to fight another day. And
Again, that
yeah,
goes back to the ego. We
right.
just got to let that go. We all have it. Don't get me wrong. We all have it. I still
Yeah.
have it. You still, everybody still has it, but it's how we let it go. And I think I was talking, my professor said this, and this is an old saying. It's like, hold on tightly, like I made a post about it. You got to hold on to the stuff that you can really hold on to, but like, your health and, your fitness and your healthy living style, but you got to let go slowly of the ego, the performance you used to be able to do, the things that used to matter. You got to let
Right.
those things go
Yeah.
because it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And I think that comes in time with, kind of maturing through jujitsu too. And, yeah, when I first started, I hated losing. I wanted to, destroy everybody I was up against. And now
Nobody loves to lose. I
yeah,
mean,
exactly. And now, if like, somebody's, wants to work a little, I let them work a little. And yeah, all right, get me in a position. I'll see if I can escape. And, it doesn't
if
mean as
not, you
much.
tap and you
Yeah.
start over.
Right. Exactly. So I don't have to put that much pressure on myself to,
You know,
you know,
another
yeah.
thing we used to say is, imagine if life was easy as jujitsu. Imagine if you can just tap and you can start your relationship over. You can tap and you can get out of debt. You can
Right.
tap, you can start, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
imagine if life was that easy. In jujitsu, it is because if you really think about it, if you tap, it's a reset button. We start
It's
all
true.
over again,
It's true.
you know?
Yeah.
I mean, not maybe not in competition, but in the classroom as we're learning, we tap. Okay, I respect that. We start over. We start
Right.
over. Imagine,
Try again.
oh, I'm in so
Exactly.
much debt. Tap. Let's start over. Like it doesn't work
Right.
like that.
Right. Fresh start.
Yeah.
Fresh start.
Yes.
Exactly. And then there was one other collaboration I saw you worked with, and I saw a little bit of it was the Warrior Poet Society. Could you talk about that a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
bit?
yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
That looked pretty
so
cool.
they, I think one of my students he did some content for Word Poet. And for people who don't know, Word Poets, they're a big organization that promotes gun violence. No.
But
They're all about
is it more
they're
military
a
kind of
Christian.
style? Yes.
Yes. Well, he's an ex-Ranger, the owner,
Yeah.
John. He's an
Mhm.
ex-Ranger. Very, like Christian base
Yeah.
person that does. So they started small and then they eventually started getting big. So what they do is they have their own line of like gun accessories. They do like, self-defense classes. They do pistol classes, rifle classes, camps, all of this stuff. While they're doing that, they have a platform almost like Netflix, but it's called Word Poet
Yeah.
Society.
And I'm a
And it's
big
all
proponent of like, hey, you got to protect yourself. If you can conceal carry,
sure.
I
Yeah,
tell
yeah,
people
yeah.
always to conceal carry to protect yourself. And because,
Yeah.
jujitsu is one thing, but having a firearm can help you out too. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Hey, I'm a big, big proponent with that. I have one everywhere in my room and truck.
All
They're
right.
everywhere. But anyway, so I got hooked up with them, and John really liked the idea, and so we did a video segment on Word Poet called "Disarmed and Dangerous," and so it was basically hand-to-hand jiu-jitsu kind of stuff, but more not so, sport oriented, but more so like, okay, again, defending the headlocks, defending the punches, how to clinch, how
Yeah.
to,
More street
create
fight.
distance, how to, your weapon. Yeah, how to draw your weapon, how
Yeah.
to, all of that stuff. And so the 2 seasons with Word Poet. And it was a fun project, man. It was great. And a lot of
Yeah.
people watched that, and they it was a great turnout because people thought, wow, this is the stuff that we need. Because John was smart. Obviously his main niche is his weapons, pistols,
Sure.
rifles, with his expertise and as a former ranger. But he knew that, okay, we needed some of this too. And then they had some guys that had different videos on there. One was like knife making, one was how to clean your guns, and it was a bunch of different videos or shows that he would have on there. And I was lucky enough to, have an opportunity to be on there for 2 seasons. So it was a great opportunity for me.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. And I just kind of breezed because I hadn't heard of it until, I saw it on
Yeah.
your site. So I checked it out and I, subscribed to his channel now. So but yeah, it looks like good stuff. Yeah. And
Yeah, they do. I mean, every one of their like rifle and pistol classes get sold out. I mean, within a week, and
yeah,
they have, and they're great courses too. I think they're
yeah.
very good courses, and thoroughly teach, and and so yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, and that's really the stuff I teach on Friday nights with you can call it police jiu-jitsu, you can call it, combatives, but it's, the effective fitness combatives that I teach is it's all basically fundamental jiu-jitsu, fundamental grappling, wrestling. But what's
Mhm.
what's the difference, right? It's a weapons-based environment. And when you're a police officer, it's a weapons-based environment, number one, because you're bringing your weapons on every call. So
Yep.
already you've introduced a weapon to the situation, And so your weapon is one, and then the possibility of that person having
Yep.
weapons too. And so you just change up how you do things, but it's still, most of the foundation is in jiu-jitsu, grappling,
Yep.
wrestling, and distance management,
Yep.
closing the distance, and all those
Conceptual.
things.
Yep.
Yeah. And you got to change it up a little for the environment, whether it's, sport, street fighting, law enforcement,
Sure.
but all those kind of foundational things still kind of stay the same, yeah,
Yep. They do.
which I've noticed, yeah. So,
Is this your academy that you're running?
no, I'm a student there, but I teach, so I train at Brazil 02 in Chicago. Professor Andre Terencio, I don't know if you know Andre, and Professor Annette Stack. So I train with them. They run the academy, and I'm just a student.
Cool.
But I do two fundamental classes during the week. I teach, which has been great for me because I've been learning a ton too while I take.
You'll learn a
But
lot.
yeah, and because I've taken the fundamental courses, hundreds and hundreds of classes, but teaching is a little bit different. I think, when you teach, you learn twice, and I think that's definitely true. And then on Friday night, I have my law enforcement class, and then the rest of the time, I'm just a student. Andre and Hanette, two great people. Hanette's like a seven-time world champion, IBJJF Hall of Fame. Really knows her stuff. One of the toughest human beings I've ever, been on the mats with,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
she's big into self-defense, big into law enforcement, women's self-defense. So you can check us out at Brazil 02 Chicago. Great school. They've supported me through, since I was a white belt. They're like, yeah, get on the mats, start training. And then I decided to start this podcast and, talk to people in law enforcement. And they've been big, big supporters and, really good school, really good people, and really support, anything kind of jujitsu based and positive based. So, yeah, so it's been going good. So I'm here in Chicago. So I'm still a full-time patrolman, working beat, answering calls every day. And then on my days off, I do things like talk to Kenny Kim on a podcast on my day off. And then, going out to run some errands today and then going to class tonight. And, so just kind of, you know, just jumped into the content creation area and I've really been enjoying it and talking to different people and meeting different people and I've been able to travel too because I talked to Chad Lyman who's out in Las Vegas. Then when I went to Las Vegas, he's like, "Hey, come train with me," because I had talked to him on a podcast. So it's really kind of opened up just the
Sure, yeah.
community. Yeah, and talking to people and meeting new people. So it's really been fun and kind of an exciting time, yeah.
Hey,
So
at the end of the day, if you're having a good time, man,
yeah.
that's
Yeah. And I always tell people like, I got into jujitsu and I thought like, well, I'm just going to take my jujitsu class so I can protect myself in the street and like that's going to be it. And it turned into so much more. I really fell in love with jujitsu, really fell in love with the community of jujitsu. And
that.
I can't talk for anybody else, but for me as a police officer, I think the mental health aspect and just feeling better. I know veterans talk about having PTSD. The police officers see a lot of stuff on a daily basis, and I think you need a community outside
Oh,
of police
100%.
And for me, it's, it's my stress relief. It's kind of, I go there, take a class, get outside of myself, get outside of my job. And it works for me. I always come home
And
feeling great. And I think it's really, definitely helped my mental health.
one thing, I was watching this documentary called The Blue Zone or The Green Zone. It's where they did a documentary on different regions in the world that has the most centurions, so over 100 years old, right?
Yeah.
And they studied it to see why that is.
Mhm.
And of course, some was, food, a little bit of exercise, there's just a lot. But one thing that I took away from was these people, one major thing they talked about was sense of belonging.
Mm.
So, and I don't care how successful you are in life. I don't care what you have. Everybody, why do people belong to a country club? Because not everybody golfs. They don't even golf. Sometimes some people golf maybe once a year. They don't even golf. But you know what? They're gonna go belong. If they got the means, they're gonna go belong to a country club. They're gonna pay that 15,000 a year, 20,000, whatever it is. They're gonna belong to a golf club.
Right.
They're gonna belong to, like I go to LA Fitness, the gym over here. A lot of younger people have moved over to Crunch Fitness. It's more loud and hype. I said, no, I'm staying here. But there's a lot of older gentlemen that come in there day in and day out. I see them every day. I just saw them today. Probably a group of like 10, 20 of them. It's their community. They have a sense of belonging. They get to
Sure.
see their friends there. They get to chat for an hour, 2 hours. Some guys come in there, they don't work out at all,
Right. They
which
just
is
talk to everybody. Yeah.
right, but
Yeah.
that's again, it goes back to sense of belonging. You
Mhm.
belong to something bigger than yourself. You belong to a group of people, the community that are there to support you.
Yes.
Like when you're in jiu-jitsu, people are gonna support you. Man, you're doing a good job. Pat on the back. Da da da. You got great friends, built-in community. Same thing,
Mhm.
even in the gym. It's like, oh man, great to see you in here. How old are you, man? "Oh, I just got a knee replacement. Da da da. Great to see you back. You have people that are there to congratulate you and cheer you on. That's I think really important about jujitsu. It's again that sense of, and we're so close. I mean, we're literally sweating on each other. There's nothing
Yeah.
like grappling another human being, right? And so it brings the people together and builds that community, stronger community where you know you belong. So I think that's one of the most reasons that people stick around, especially not competitors like your everyday Joes stick around because of that, because they feel empowered personally, and then they feel the warmth, the togetherness within the community.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And that's
Yeah.
what I want.
Yeah, and I think you're doing that. I think you're doing that, and you definitely, from watching all your content, I kind of get that vibe, or where you're really inspiring people, and helping average, ordinary people, connect with jujitsu and connect with other people in jujitsu, and that's really what it's about. Yeah, and I
Well,
really do see that in your content. And I think that's why it's so popular too, and that's why people really enjoy
I
watching it.
appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, again, it's just going back to just being genuine, being yourself, being who you are, and that's how you're really gonna put yourself out there. You don't want to mimic anything else. So, you want to be the original.
Yeah, no, I agree. And when I first started, I thought that too, like everything has to be perfect. Or if I take videos of class, it's got to be like this perfect move and all this
Yeah.
stuff. And I'm just like, people are like, no, just throw the camera up, film some stuff and put it out there. This is what you're doing. It's more reality. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah. So, and I think it's a lot
Yeah.
easier. It's a lot less pressure that way too, so yeah. So.
Hmm.
But yeah, I won't take up too much more of your time, but much appreciated. We could always talk again if you ever want to talk about something.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
or
Yeah.
if you're ever up in the Chicago area, hit me up. We got you can come train with us anytime.
Yes, definitely. I will.
Yeah, and thanks for taking the time and talking to me today. And me as a fan, really love your stuff, really love your content, really love Matt Made and everything you're doing there too. And that's really how I kind of got onto you. And I think it's gonna, keep getting bigger and bigger. People really, really love the stories on there, and it's really good to see.
I appreciate it. I hope so. We're gonna keep it going, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, sir. Much appreciated.
All right. Take care. Talk
Thank,
soon.
thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.